Hi, all. Once again, a happy new year to all. And let's get back on track with our answer writing initiative. Hopefully, you guys got to learn something last year, and we shall continue our trend even this year. Hopefully, you guys wrote answer to today's question, which was on international relations, and gotten it evaluated on CollectorBabu's platform. So, let's not waste our time and start writing and reviewing answer to today's question. The questions are visible on my screen. One thing which I had told even earlier for international relation was that you need to write and you need to make diagrams wherever possible or the maps of countries or the region shown in international relations question. See, for the first question, we don't need to make a map. We just need to analyze it and write answer to it. So the question is, sea is an important component of the cosmos. Discuss in light of the above statement the role of International Maritime Organization in protecting environment and enhancing maritime safety and security. Okay, so first you will be talking about IMO's role in environmental protection and then IMO's role in safety and security. By now, you might have gotten a pretty clear idea on how to break down the question. So, firstly, we'll give a short insight into how IMO is responsible for protecting marine ecosystem and safe and secure maritime operations. For maritime related domain, there are a few keywords which you might know, like freedom of navigation. Okay, what else? Like protecting global commons, etc. So, in your answer, try to inculcate these keywords wherever possible. So, for the environmental protection point, we obviously know the ship-based pollution protocol, the MARPOL protocol. Okay, very famous and very important, which is about regulating pollution caused by oil, chemical, etc. Then you can also talk about, if you know about IMO rules in making rules for breaking down of old ships, etc. Okay, on how they should be, retired. Those ships should be retired. And then you'll talk about conservation of marine biodiversity, the 2023 BBNJ, the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement, which underscores IMO's commitment to protecting marine biological diversity. These three, obviously, you can write, and then you can type about key sensitive marine areas. Okay, like protecting important marine heritage like the Great Barrier Reef and to safeguard such vulnerable ecosystem from shipping activities. The fourth point is this, and the fifth you could just write about protecting polar ecosystem and how, like with the recent thawing of the permafrost, how um, new shipping lanes should be constructed and how it should ensure that the environment is not harmed, etc. Okay, the fragile extreme ecosystems. Then the second part is talking about the role in maritime safety and security. Obviously, you will talk about piracy is a global threat. We'll be talking about the Djibouti Code of Conduct, which is a very important point which you need to write. Djibouti Code of Conduct targeting piracy, human trafficking, maritime terrorism, illegal fishing, etc. in the Gulf of Aden, Western Indian Ocean region. Okay. Then you will be talking about ship safety standards. Okay, like how to ensure, like how or the basic minimum standards for the construction equipment, etc. of ships. Okay, and then what else? We're talking about post 9/11. There were certain more security frameworks that were brought about by IMO. Okay, for example, enhancing cooperation between ships and ports, enabling effective deterrence of security threats, etc. Okay, and then what else? We're talking about legal mechanism against unlawful acts. Okay, so um, these are some of the way and the points that you will be putting forward in your answer. And then lastly, you can just talk about advancing maritime technology, etc., etc. Like it helps safeguard sea by fostering environmental protection and maritime security. Hopefully, this has given you an insight into how you're supposed to approach such questions from your latent knowledge, etc. Because nobody generally studies about IMO specifically for mains, but you might have some basic knowledge from your prelims preparation. Use that. Then, what is the second part? The second part, or I mean, the second question is clean energy is the order of the day. Describe India's changing policy towards climate change in various international fora in the context of geopolitics. So, it's basically a mix of environment question and international relations question. But the second part clearly asks you about changing geopolitical shift of India. So you'll be writing it from international relation perspective. Let us try to understand what we'll be writing in this question. So the first point is the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. You can just give this small quote because this is also approach of writing code based answer. This could be one such approach. And then you'll be talking about how India's evolving climate change policy and its integration in geopolitical engagement highlights its intent to balance development and environmental stewardship. Okay, so there are a few body headings which you can use. First, you can actually bilateral partner. You can just uh, make segments as to how to you'll be answering. First, you can talk about changes in India's climate policy. Okay, so here you can talk about how India is expanding their climate action beyond the UNFCCC. Okay, like bilateral engagement or even collaborating in unilateral regional groupings like Quad, SAARC, etc. Okay, and then evolving stance on common but differentiated responsibility and climate justice. These are two important words whenever you're talking about India's intent to be an environmental leader. These two words become predominantly important, especially in context of India's environmental stewardship in the global south. Okay, then you will talking about India has embraced nationally determined contribution and is taking onus for its own climate goals. And then you'll be talking about preventing crisis management. Here you can talk about a lot of initiative like International Solar Initiative and then Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. Okay, so, and the second part, you can just talk about various bilateral groupings, like with US, with Germany, with small island nations. India has been very predominantly working to mobilize their efforts toward environmental sustainability, resilience, and climate actions. Okay, so you can give examples of one or two countries, it would be enough. Then you can talk about multilateral engagements, Quad, IPEF, I2U2. Okay, these are some of the important fora where all this engagement is going on. Obviously, International Solar Alliance, you cannot just forget that. Multilateral contribution, for example, ambitious targets under the Paris Agreement and global renewable energy advocacy and various other initiatives you can just talk about like the One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative. And at last, you can talk about advocacy in other multilateral platforms like G20, WTO, where India has been predominantly maintaining a stance not just to protect environment but to ensure so that the global south countries they get benefited from the and they get benefited from this initiative and the development is not taken a toll in the developing countries and the developed countries also support them. So in the last, you can just talk about India's climate policy showcases its dedication to sustainable development and equitable global governance. Integrating climate goals with geopolitical strategies, India solidifies its position as a responsible global power. That's it. And the last question for today is so this is the question where you can just draw a map. You can draw this regional map where you can mark India and you can mark Africa, or you can mark just Asia and Africa and just highlight the region like this is the region we're talking about. So you will be talking about Africa, like in the last few decades were of Asia. Okay, it was Asia's growth story, but the next few is going to be Africa's. In this light of statement, examine India's influence in Africa. Okay, so it has been given that okay, next few years are going to be Africa's. What you can do is you can make a small hub and spoke and talk about why it is going to be. For example, you can talk about increasing population there, vital resources, especially related to new generation industries like renewable, semiconductor automation, etc. Vast potential, vast land area, forest area, okay, and opportunity for climate actions, for example the Great Green Wall Initiative, etc. So hub and spoke, you can give some points like how this shows that the next few years are going to be of Africa or the next few decades. Okay, so in the introduction section you can just briefly talk about like Africa has vast resources, rising opportunity for investment, etc. So it will become the next global growth hub. And then India has been trying to influence to leverage some of this uh, opportunity presence. So you can talk about so what are you going to do? Firstly, you will talk about some of the initiatives which are there. Like you can talk about India Africa Forum Summit, and you can talk about the focus area. You can talk about development partnership investment. India is the fourth largest investor, and various other domain where the cooperation is going on. You can talk about diaspora. Okay, what else? You can talk about India competing with Chinese influence. Okay, like India's focus on people-centric approach, need-based project, with contrast with China's large-scale infrastructure project. Okay, you can talk about in the Egypt partnership. Okay, you can just talk about various country specific here also. Whatever you know, you can use your knowledge to generate points for this. Obviously, solar alliance again here becomes important. Okay, you can talk about India trying to acquire various mines in the African region, Congo, Sudan region. Also important for its energy security. These are some of the okay, and also you can talk about India providing satellite network. You can talk about India-Japan partnership to develop infrastructure in Africa of the Asia-Africa growth corridor. Okay, so these are some of the points that you know. You just need to arrange it in a fashion that answers the question. Okay. So, enhancing healthcare infrastructure such as telemedicine initiatives under the Pan Africa e-network, okay, about education, etc., etc., etc. Also, cultural ties, diaspora network, and solidarity against colonialism. These are again equally important points. So, will it be the end of answer? No. You also have to talk about some of the challenges. I mean, you can give two, three, four challenges, and that would be enough. Like slow implementation of the Asia-Africa growth corridor, it has been really tardy. And then due to bureaucratic influence, limited private sector involvement, okay, Indian business lack government support in contrast with Chinese. So there's this growing Chinese competition as well. Trade challenges like India bilateral trade with Africa, it is only modest at best. There's limited diversification also beyond oil, gas, diamond, etc. Standalone projects, lack of integrated approach. Okay, so these are some of the point you can just write to highlight what are the challenges that India is facing, and then you can just give some step way forward, maybe one, two, three. It's fine. Not more than three is required because the question does not explicitly ask you to identify challenges and bring a way forward, but one, two would be fine. The first important would be the expedite Asia Africa growth corridor, where the timeline should be clear and limited bureaucratic or no bureaucratic delays. Then partnering with NGOs and local bodies, then fighting the perception because um, in Africa there's this perception, especially among the African immigrants who come to India, they are discriminated against, whether it's students, etc. Okay, so talking about trade diversification, beyond like the non-traditional domain like pharmaceutical, IT, etc., focusing more on harboring the renewable energy strength, etc. So this is how you're just supposed to answer. And in the end, you can conclude that India needs to maximize its influence in Africa and must adopt multifaceted approach that emphasizes human capital, faster project execution, and private sector involvement. Okay, so that's all for today. Have a nice day and keep writing. Hopefully, you guys have learned something. And bye bye. We'll meet again on Saturday. Saturday. Yep. Take care. Bye.